In today's ACC TV episode, we are discovering the 3 best lead magnets and their conversion rates for course creators. So if you've struggled with attracting leads and getting them to either get on your mailing list, download your freebie, or whatever that might be, it could be your freebie. Let's dive into the 3 most popular, highest converting lead magnets according to the most recent article by GetResponse. So I'm going to pull some statistics into this because I think it's really important for you to have numbers backing your decision. Now, before we start, I want to give you a few tips along the way when you're choosing a lead magnet, because a lead magnet will only be as successful as you feel comfortable putting it out there. So I'm going to give you 3/4 lead magnet options that work really well and their conversion rates. And then I'm also going to give you a bonus tip. So make sure you stay tuned in until the end of the video so that you can grab that bonus tip as well. So number 1, before you choose a lead magnet, your personal choice of a lead magnet, you need to know your audience, because you could choose to do a video download or a video training, and if your audience is, say, in a corporate job and they can't watch a video or they don't make time to watch that video, you're not going to have as high of a conversion rate as something that would fit their lifestyle a little bit better. So if you're showing up on YouTube and they're on Instagram, you have a problem. So just make sure that whatever lead magnet you choose is what your audience is looking for, and that you give them options. So if you do a video, I did say do. If you do a video, make sure that you are delivering it in a way that it makes it easy for them to say yes and that they want that video. And so knowing your audience, you're going to discover not only who they are, but what they struggle with, what their problems are. And the best way to get your lead magnet to work is to solve one of their big problems. And a lot of people are like, no, that takes too much work. I'm just going to put together this checklist. Well, that's great, but then don't wonder why no one's downloading your free document. Now, let me dig a little deeper on that, because everybody's kind of figured out the free download business. As far as marketing, it's very inundated in the marketplace. People know you trade your email address and your name for free information. People have become very protective of their email addresses because they don't want to be spammed. They don't want to be emailed constantly. And so they're very particular about who they hand that out to, which means you have to earn it. And if you aren't earning their trust up front, the likelihood that they're going to move forward and purchase from you is pretty slim. And I talked about that in video number 10. I'll link to it at the end of this video so you can check out that video as well. But if you can answer one of their problems and then incite them to take action, you're going to have a pretty good opportunity to gather their information and grow your email list. So that's tip number 1. And when we're talking about different downloads, there are many different options you can choose. Like, you could have a free PDF, you could have a newsletter, you could have a checklist, you could have an ebook. There's tons of different downloads. And we're going to dive into those a little bit more in number 3. But just to give you an idea of what those downloads look like. So if I'm talking about a video download, for example, that could be a quick training or a tutorial, or it could be a long-term training, like a webinar where you're really getting into details, or you're getting into a longer explanation about a specific task or tool. So I'll dive into those a little bit more in point number 3, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of basis before you ever choose what kind of download you're going to give away or get people to sign up for. It's really important to do steps 1 and 2. And number 1 is to know your audience inside and out. And the more you can learn about them, the better. I actually have a video coming up in the near future, probably the next video or 2, that I'm going to talk about some tools that you can use to research your audience a little bit more in depth. So stay tuned for that video. But let's move on to point number 2, which is you can't really create a download if you're not comfortable with it. So what do I mean by that? Be comfortable with it. If you're not comfortable recording videos, it's going to be really hard for you to create a video where you're coming across authentic and excited and engaging, and people will read your inner feelings from the video, they're going to be like, this is kind of lame. I don't want to watch it. So if you're not comfortable making video, maybe that's not the best download for you. If you're not comfortable writing, like maybe you're not a really great writer, it's just not your genius zone, then don't create a big long ebook, because it's going to be torture for you, and your torture is going to come through energetically to your audience. And so when you're choosing what kind of download to create, I always say, make it beneficial for your audience, but make sure you like it too, because if you're having to create something, it's going to take a good amount of time investment and a good amount of energy to create something that's worthwhile that people want. And so if you really struggle with like the actual creating it and putting it out there in a really nicely designed format, outsource it. Like there's nothing saying you can't create the content and then outsource that to somebody on Fiverr or Upwork or something like that that loves design. So there are ways to work around it, but just make sure that the big chunk of your content is something that you enjoy doing. So if it's audio or video, or you're doing a training and you don't know how to use Zoom, or you're not comfortable with Zoom, then rethink that. Like you either need to get some help to help you with that piece of it, or you need to choose something different. And so those would be tips 1 and 2. Know your audience and then know yourself, because when you know those two things, it makes it much easier for you to plug into one of the following options for your free download. So I mentioned a little bit earlier some of the options for a free download. But how do you know which one's going to convert the highest? Well, first and foremost, it's going to come down to your audience. Are you a business to business type of transaction, or are you a business to consumer type of transaction? That in itself is going to determine what kind of lead magnet that's going to work. If you're a business to consumer transaction, you may do very well with just a coupon download. So what does that look like? You go to your favorite restaurant, they have a QR code, you scan it, they ask you if you want to sign up for their email address to get a 15% off coupon. You do it, and then the coupon appears on your phone if they use text messaging, or it appears in your inbox and you give it to them. And then they enroll you in their rewards program. That's a short and simple business to consumer. Since most of you are course creators, you probably have a similar model. You are selling your course to an individual. However, it could be, a business to business. So maybe you are creating courses for another business. So I'm not going to rule that out, but the good majority of you are probably selling to another individual rather than a corporation or a business. So what can that look like for you? And again, it's going to depend on your audience, because different industries will also determine how well a download does. And I don't want to go into too much of that. I will link to the report that I pulled the statistics from. If you really want to dive deep on that, you can do that. But it was a report put out by Get Response. And they did a survey of different marketers to see what kind of conversion rate they had for their customers and for their companies. So the number one conversion download, I cannot come up with that word. The number one download that converts the best is short-term video. So what is short-term versus long-term? Well, short-term is something like you're learning here on YouTube. It's like maybe 3 to 12 minutes. You're not going to have a really long, and sometimes it's shorter than that. It could just be a quick clip. It could be a quick tutorial. It could be a quick boost of information, versus a long-term video commitment is more like an hour-long webinar, or a series of webinars, or a series of trainings, or something like that. The short-term piece of it converts much, much higher. So the actual conversion rate for short-form video is 73%. It's huge. That is a huge conversion rate. And when you can engage people in that conversion rate and get them to stay tuned, you have the opportunity to move the sale along quicker. The reason being is that you can you build the relationship whether you're having a conversation with them or not, because you're showing up authentically and you're coming from a place of service. So people are much more likely to move forward and move through your sales funnel when you do video, because they can see who you are, how you show up, and if you're being authentic and real. And that's why video is scary for people, because you're putting yourself out there, whether people like you or not, you're putting yourself out there. So number one, conversion rate is short-term video. Number two, obviously, is long-term video. And we talked about what that looks like. That's your webinars. That's your video training. Now, the conversion rate on that is actually pretty high as well. It's only a little bit lower than the short form. The difference being time commitment. If you're going to do a webinar, you're investing time to build out the slide deck, to do the presentation, blah, blah, blah. And that's a bigger time commitment than just planning out a video that might take you 15, 20 minutes or half an hour. But the conversion rate on long form video is 70.2%, according to GetResponse. So that's pretty high. And one of the benefits as a course creator for creating long-term video is you get to showcase your skills. Like, what is it going to be like to learn from you and to work with you and to go through your course or any of your group trainings that you include with your course, or whatever that looks like. They get a really great feel of what it's like to work with you and how you teach. So this is great for course creators. It's the one that I would recommend, and it's the one that many of my clients have used to start to build their list. They will either offer a free webinar or a masterclass or something like that, and people show up and they get a good taste of who they are, and then they're ready to move forward into a purchase. Now, there's another way to do this that they didn't talk about, and so I don't have a statistic, but I've used it with many of my clients, and that is to do a challenge. And a challenge kind of combines the download and the video. So what you could do is you could create a live challenge where you show up and you do a short, quick little video every day for 5 days. And most often, this works where you're trying to get them from point A to point B by going through certain steps. So I've seen 3-day challenges, 5-day challenges, 7-day challenges, 30-day challenges. I have a client right now that's doing a 30-day positivity challenge for part of her coursework. And she does 1-minute videos and then follows it up with an email, and they get a little bit of additional information. And then there's a workbook that goes with it. So that's another option. You don't have to do 30 days for free, but it gives you an option to combine the two by creating a challenge. Now, the nice thing about the challenge is you get to continue to be in front of them more than once. So when you do a webinar, you get in front of them for a longer period of time. But when you do a challenge, you're in front of them for shorter periods of time, but for more opportunities. So I would group that challenge piece in with the first two. I don't have a conversion rate, but from client work, I have seen challenges work really well. So you may consider that too. And then number 3, now mind you, when I get to number 3, this isn't like the lower option. It's these were 3 options out of 52 options of different types of opt-ins you could do. And so number 3 is to create a free download of some sort. And that can be a checklist, it could be an ebook, it could be a PDF, it could be a guide, it could be a tutorial, any of those things. I have seen all of those things work really well for myself and for my clients. I have several PDFs right now that I've done, and they convert really well. People like them because it's not a huge commitment. They can go in, they can download it, and then they can choose to either read the additional emails that go with that PDF or move on. And it's great for a creator like yourself because you're going to know right away if people are interested and they're opening it and they're reading it and they're acting on it. And if they stay engaged, they're interested in what you do. But if they read it, download it, and then unsubscribe, you know they really weren't a great fit for you anyway. So that's the 3 tips that I have for you in creating a great lead magnet. Know your audience, know yourself, and choose the right lead magnet option that fits the first 2 criteria. Now, I promised you a bonus. Now, the bonus with creating this is that you don't have to do just one. In fact, I recommend get one up and going and running and test it and keep moving forward, and then create another version of that same one and see which one does better. Test them against each other. And so what does that look like? Say you create a guide, you create a PDF guide, and then you decide to do a video series that goes with the guide. And people, you can test to see, does the video do better than just the guide? Or is the guide doing better than the video? And it's not a huge time commitment because you've already created the material. It's just a matter of repurposing it and scaling it and making it work for your business. So that's what I have for you today. And this episode is the top 3 plus 1 ways to create a successful lead magnet for your course so that you can sell more courses and get in front of more people and grow your email list. So thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe. And I have linked a couple other videos at the end, so that would be a good opportunity for you to dive a little deeper on some of the things we talked about. Until I see you next week, have a great week and take care.